And welcome everybody as we join in progress. This should be great fun. It is the California 8 Hours Super Pole qualifying session. The top 15 from the qualifying session late morning are taking to the track for their Super Pole session. And they're letting everybody get out here and run a couple of laps, get everything up to speed. And then, if my read on it is correct, they tend to release the cars in a staggered segment so they can let a car have a completely free lap. And based on what we saw from this morning, Jeff, there was some absolutely superb speeds in those cars. This should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. To see the cars come out here, Super Pole as they call it here, for the Intercontinental GT race, and talk about a stacked field, though, of veteran and sports car racers here in the country, both teams as well. You see there is that K-Pax McLaren 650S, Alvaro Parent, Ben Barnicoat driving those Brian Sellers. What a great field we have through here. But obviously Alvaro Parent, one of the competitors, a little bit deep down there in turn number 1, but looks like he recovered fine. That might have been actually one of those, I'm going to mean to do this and get this done. Yeah, well, I have seen some of the folks here this weekend. You know, some of these drivers, obviously, you got drivers that haven't run here before. And it's been kind of interesting watching how they've gone about that corner. And a lot of them are doing a very, very exaggerated diamond that you just talked about, Jeff. Obviously, these are some of the world's best pilots, so they seem to like the fact that you get in, do that big diamond, and can pick the throttle up just a little bit sooner and maybe exit that turn with a little bit more head of steam and get into the aero sooner for turn 3. It is one of those areas that gives you a chance to really vary your line through there, the conditions of your car on how it's handling to go through. And this is a session that you'll see different strategies here going through, as how quickly you can go, different sections here. Ryan Eversley right now sitting at the top of the time charts, but very preliminary right now here as we're trying to go through. If you look at the best time overall, it is Winkelhock in the Audi R8 LMS sitting in 9th on the category here, but we'll look at his overall time as Eversley at a 1:28.980. Once again, just the first laps here. So we're trying to get time worked up. He's still there working the wheel back and forth, trying to get that gap. Well, and you're talking about how stacked this field is. I mean, some of this driver lineup is absolutely superb. Now, there are the categories that are out there. You've got the GT3, the all-pro cars, if you will. Then Pro-Am, we've got a couple of those. And then the GT4 cars. And they have a specific mix of rated drivers, of course, following the FIA driver rating system. You got, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. And if you're in one of the categories like Pro-Am, where you have to run a gold or a silver or platinum driver, or excuse me, a silver or bronze driver, but for this session, the highest level driver has to take part in this session. So you take a look at some of the highest rated drivers in a couple of these Pro-Am cars, and oh boy, like the driver of the car, the 54 Black Swan Porsche right there. Yeah, Jerome Bleekemolen. I'm sure a lot of people, of course, watching us worldwide on MotorTrendOnDemand.com for the Super Bowl qualifying here are well aware of Jerome Bleekemolen, that Black Swan Racing team. Of course, Jerome Bleekemolen, Tim Pappas, and they got some little other driver that's running with them. Yeah, don't they? Just a casual kind of guy that decided to pop in and shows up for a race, have a little bit of a run here. Yeah, exactly. Bleekemolen and David Calvert-Jones, of course. Calvert-Jones has been the class of the field in this car so far, really, in the Pro-Am category. Yeah, he's been very solid. Out of Australia originally, came over to the States, ran the Porsche GT3 Cup a few years ago, and was immediately quick, and then has gone back to Australia and focused on driving there, and has done a very nice job. And one of the reasons that this team is here is Black Swan wants to run Bathurst next year, and David Calvert-Jones would be one of the drivers, and so they said, well, let's get a head start on things. Have you come over here, we'll run this race and really put things together. And then you add Jerome Bleekemolen to the mix, and you've got a rocket-quick car combination out there. And this is the interesting thing, because that makes it entirely possible. You can see a Pro-Am car on the overall pole. Yeah, it might be. It's one of those that we saw that in the traditional Pro World Challenge sprint format series, where you see Bleekemolen's been on the pole position in the sprint category, and you come over here to this endurance championship with the plethora of pro drivers and international flair and drivers to see who's going to happen. But it's been Audi pretty much all of the sessions. Porsche has stepped up a little bit, and we can't speak enough of that number 17 Euro World Motorsports Porsche of Alec Udell, who's sitting 4th right now, was at the top of the time charts a little bit earlier in the first qualifying sessions. Whoa, we gone way sideways there in the bottom of Rainey, was on a flyer and just lost grip there. That's Frisians actually in the Audi WRT Motorsport Audi R8 LMS.
Yeah, that's a really cool program to have those guys make the trip over here. The Belgian Audi Club Team WRT entry, just a superb outfit that focuses on the Blancpain Series and some of the racing in Europe, but also runs the Intercontinental GT Challenge. And did they bring a stacked lineup? Obviously, Robin Friends got the call to do the Super Poles, but teamed with Stuart Leonard this year. They won the Blancpain Sprint Cup, which is the sprint division of the Blancpain Championship over in Europe. If you do that, you have truly achieved something here. And this team, this program, and these drivers are absolutely top flight. So should be a good one. And again, an opportunity here just to see what the level of this competition is. And remember, folks, this is now where the manufacturers have stepped up their support a little bit of the teams that have decided to enter here, and just give them a little bit more technical resource, number of different things here. And it's just been just superb to see what has unfolded here. I mean, when you've got Marcus Winkelhock here, who has done Formula One and won just about everything, just an absolutely remarkable deal. Alvaro Parent, 2016 Probably World Challenge GT champion, and Alec Udell, who has come up through the Probably World Challenge ladder. You know, this is one of the things that I think is pretty cool, Jeff. You look at the driver lineup in that number 17, you've got Wolf Hensler, Sven Mueller, both Porsche factory drivers. Alec Udell is the only non-Porsche factory driver teamed with a Porsche factory driver in the Porsches that are entered here with factory support, and they nominated him for Super Pole.
Doesn't it make it work that in that Porsche young development to have a youngster like Alec Udell, and there is that Euro World Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R, to have him at that level to where, like you said, Greg, the only non-factory driver paired up with factory drivers. It's a really good feather in the cap for Alec Udell, but also a feather in the cap for, I think, the series as well with that built-in ladder. We saw him move up from the GTS platform, which is now becoming that GT4, into the Porsche Cup category, GT Cup, we had it here in Probably World Challenge, and now into this GT3 platform on an international level, and sitting 3rd on the time charts with Andrew Davis right in front of him. In that number 77 Porsche.
That's a very good point. And you know that, I mean, one of his teammates, Sven Mueller, just now is completing his second year as a Porsche first year as a full Porsche factory driver. He was a junior driver last year. He and Alec raced each other when Alec did the one-off Porsche Super Cup at the Circuit of the Americas supporting Formula One last year. And that's the progression. That's how that works. And Alec they've been successful enough this season that they are welcoming in HK Motors, which is Hybrid Kinetic, and it's called the Hybrid Kinetic Group, and they specialize in clean renewable energy, battery technology, nanotechnology, hybrid systems, and electric car batteries. And they're using motorsports now as a platform to test, develop, and showcase what they have, and they elected these guys to carry that on the car. So gives you an idea of just what's capable here. So just got word from race control, 5 minutes remaining in this part of the session, and then we go to the normal format, I believe is what's going to happen here, and that's where they release the cars in staggered order. This track's short enough, they may have opted, we haven't heard officially yet, to go with one car at a time for the qualifying run for Super Pole.
Here's a great shot of the number 29 Audi plastic car. Not this car, but that team just comes off a victory at Petit Le Mans, winning. That car is here on display. How cool is that this global GT3 platform, in theory, they could have taken that car, changed the stickers, put a fresh set of Pirelli P0s on to come out here and race. They do have another car, so they're running that, but what does that speak to the volume of what SRO has developed here for these manufacturers in Intercontinental GT?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Right now we have Audi's 1-2 in this sort of warm-up session here. Winkelhock in the number 44. That's a team that has run in Pirelli World Challenge as Magnus Racing. This weekend, Audi Sport Team Magnus. I mean, again, that's that upgraded level of support. Then this car, the monoplast by Land Motorsports Team Audi, in the hands of Christopher Haase, who's been very quick in the practice sessions and even some of the test sessions. And the 58 of Patrick Long in the Porsche Motorsports North America by Wright Motorsports Porsche, and the number 9 of Alvaro Perez in the K-Pax McLaren runs fourth. And Peter Cox, who is fastest in this morning's qualifying session. And in the morning qualifying session, everybody that was in the top 15 gets to go to Super Pole, and that will determine the top 15. 16 on back was established for this morning's session, so it was an important session to be sure. And late in the session, Peter Cox cracked off a great lap in the number 93 real-time racing entry at a 1:24.4 and was able to top that session. But Winkelhock right now already at a 1:24.1 in warmer conditions, which gives you an idea of just the performance level here that we are going to see in this qualifying session. I can't look at that. Christopher Haase, as I mentioned his name, goes first guy now in this session, sub 123 or 124 to 123.961. Jeff.
Yeah, great, superb drive for him as you're getting a good shot there. The number 93 of Peter Cox, who we just talked about that real-time racing Acura NSX, and the Acura NSX, another one of those brand new GT3 platforms here. Great success over there in the IMSA series, doing multiple victories there, winning here in Pirelli World Challenge, I believe at Utah Motorsports Campus, getting their first win, and coming back here to run the Intercontinental GT race, 2 cars strong and 6 different drivers there as cars coming in to make some pit stops here to get ready for the second half of our Super Pole.
Yeah, the actual shootout part, that is going to be pretty spectacular. Got Jerome Bleekemolen in this session that's just completing, or this part of the session, if you will, sitting 6th in that Black Swan Racing Porsche 911 GT3R, and getting ready for this. I mean, take a look at the driver lineups that are going to be out there in qualifying. Christopher Haase, Marcus Winkelhock, Pat Long, Alvaro Perez, every one of them we mentioned so far, factory drivers. Peter Cox, factory driver. Jerome Bleekemolen, not a factory driver, but he's so busy, I'm not sure he wants a factory deal, because he's other world talent, and he gets offers from everybody to drive everything, and he loves doing that. And he's one of those guys that he'll run one weekend in a GT3 car, the next weekend he'll run in a prototype 2 car over in Europe somewhere. Next weekend he'll run a touring car. He can drive it, and people are looking at him. But Alec Udell, Robin Frins, Andrew Davis, Ryan Eversley, I mean, just absolutely stunning, the driver lineups we're seeing here. And then, folks, you get to see something that's going to be a lot of fun, are the Mark Mazda 3 V8s from the Mark Carr's team that runs out of Australia. And they are big. There's one of them, the big thundering V8 Mazda 3s. And they are fun to watch.
There's a left-hand drive version and a right-hand drive version in that Project Mu. And our own Pirelli World Challenge, Will Rogers, will be here inside this car driving in the Roseville race here tonight at the NASCAR K&N Series, where he's won 3 times, I believe, and he's a past touring car B-Spec competitor, getting the call up to run one of these Mark Mazda 3 V8s. It's a tube frame chassis, a V8. Usually at Bathurst or in Europe, they run a Ford Focus body on these cars, so you can kind of rebody it however you want to do that and get it set up. So they have it set up as Mazda here. It looks like we're checkered flag on this session.
Yep, checkered flag, which means I'm assuming that we are going to then set up and get ready for the actual Super Pole shootout. He's going to, well, he can come around and take the checker. There's no question about that. But, yeah, it's interesting. And that's exactly one of the reasons that they're here, is they wanted to showcase. And he said, that's the neat thing about the way we build these cars, is that we can build them left-hand, we can build them right-hand. The way that the cars come together, pretty remarkable. And in U.S. dollars, for a roller, or a turnkey, go and race it, $160,000. That's ridiculous price for this kind of for performance. Hey, I want to get down and check in with Katie. What's happening down in pit lane?
Well, I wanted to make a note about Christopher Haase, who's in the Audi Sport Team Land car right now, in the number 29. Interestingly enough, they wanted to get him the seat time. This is the guy who has been running for them both in practice and in qualifying earlier today, especially as it relates to running on those new tires. They ran on new tires yesterday in practice. However, here this morning in quals, they actually were running on that used set because tire strategy is playing a big part of it. Regardless of all of that, they wanted to make sure Christopher Haase had enough time on both those used and new tires here this weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it makes complete sense, obviously, doesn't it? Because, Jeff, you got a lot of laps around this track. This track is hard on tires, and they only have an allotted number of tires that they can use. So you've got to manage them to make sure you've got tires that it gets you to the end of an 8-hour race. And out of that allotment, you got to run practice and qualifying, too.
Yeah, you have 10 sets of these Pirelli P0 tires you're allocated. So 40 tires. You have flat spot one, you have a mistake one, you cut one down. They don't let you replace it unless it's a defect in the tire. Then they will do that. This is Pirelli we're talking about. There's no such thing as defects in the tires. So that's not going to happen. So you really have to manage these tires. You'll see it. Does the car work better on scrubs? Don't want to start the race on a scrub. So let's go out and just do a lap or two. But it's going to play out for that strategy 8 hours long here to see how that goes.
All right, and you take a look at the order right now. Christopher Haase at that 1 minute 23.961 in that number 29 Audi. That set fastest time here. And then you got the number 44 of Winkelhock. And what's happening here, you see the cars starting to queue up and head back. Now, we understand that they can take the car, work on it briefly.
Yeah, very quickly kind of get done and make some quick adjustments. Usually you go down on pit lane.
Yep.
And do some stuff, but they see all the cars going back behind the wall.
So Haase, the only guy to get under the 124s at that 123.961. And I'll tell you, this guy is so mega behind the wheel. And this car, as you pointed out, Jeff, has had tremendous success, winning at Petit, to second at the Rolex 24 championship runs, certainly over in Europe. They've been able to put together some amazing runs. And it's just absolutely great to see. And Haase has just been absolutely lit. So, and then it's Marcus Winkelhock in the number 44 entry from Audi Sport Team Magnus. Then the 58 Porsche Motorsports North America by Wright Motorsports machine. Patrick Long will now be third. Fourth will be Robin Frins in the number 11 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT entry. And rounding out your top five in Super Pole qualifying, the number 9 of Alvaro Perez in the K-Pax McLaren. So Super Pole is done. The stage is set for tomorrow's 8-hour race, which we will, of course, be covering right here. It'll be live on CBS Sports Network for the first 2 hours, and for the final hour and a half in the middle, it will be a live webcast available on MotorTrendOnDemand.com. We do hope you tune in. Don't go too far. We have touring car racing coming up to wrap up an amazing 2017 season.